Hello and welcome to the Aura News broadcast on this Friday afternoon. I'm Daniel Cook, your host for the English edition, which we have Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. In today's news, the opposition has issued a request to the EU for them to establish a monitoring committee for the government in power. The Democratic Party has urged the EU to send a monitoring mission to Albania to monitor the movements by the government in the administration. In a media statement, the Democrat MP, Oerd Bulikbashi, said that the Prime Minister Edi Rama and the President of the Assembly, Ilir Meta, should refrain from replacing civil servants with militants in the administration. Today, the Minister of Defense has warned about a new administration cleaning, which is being planned by the Rama-Meta duo after receiving the candidate status. 70 civil servants were summoned today to the Ministry of Defense, where they were asked to resign or to go on the waiting list. The new campaign of cleansing the administration was denounced by the Democratic Party, which has publicly expressed its doubts and said that it has already informed the internationals. We urge the government and the Rama-Meta duo to immediately renounce this shameful plan of cleansing the administration, they said. The scenario of opening new jobs for the party militants and the dismissal of the professionals which have left is terrible for a country that has received the candidate status, and this scenario will cause strong civic protests. The Democratic Party urges the European Union to immediately send a monitoring mission to look closely at the crimes of the government within the administration, the most treasured public asset in the path of European integration, said Bulikbashi. The OSCE ambassador to Albania has stressed the need for the territorial administrative reform. The ambassador of the OSCE to Albania, Florian Raunig, stated that the territorial reform is necessary and that the entire political spectrum should collaborate in order to accomplish it. Raunig said that there are signs that the opposition wants to join this reform and that this is a good thing. The statement of Ambassador Raunig was made during a meeting that was held in the town of Burel between the deputies of Dibra County and the voters. Raunig was received by the mayor of Burel. During his time as the ambassador of Austria, they had some institutional collaboration, among which was the establishment of a youth center in the town of Burel. The Prime Minister and the Speaker of the Assembly have received an official resolution for the administrative territorial reform. The Association of Municipalities and the Association of Regional Councils have officially sent to the Speaker of the Assembly, Ilir Meta, and to the Prime Minister, Edi Rama, a decentralizing resolution for the administrative and territorial reforms. The reform was adopted on the 2nd of July 2014 during a conference entitled The Expansion of the Local Autonomy, a Sustainable Territorial Reform. At the conference that was held on the 2nd of July, the platform for the reform of the local government was voted in unanimously. The conference was attended by local elected officials, the municipal mayors, the members of municipal councils, civil servants, and employees of local administration, various units that perform local services, representatives of civil society organizations, representatives of large, medium, and small entrepreneurships, and MPs of the Assembly. The local elected officials have officially familiarized the two top leaders of the state, the Speaker of the Assembly and the Prime Minister, with the principles of this convention, which are decentralization, expansion, and consolidation of local autonomy. The resolution states, these must be the basic direction of the reform. The reform should be based on and guided by the principles of direct and representative democracy, by serving the citizens better, by partnership and cooperation, by fair distribution of resources, by support of the local units that have fewer opportunities, by transparency and accountability to the citizens and the community. The territorial organization of local governments at all levels should reflect the identity of the community's residents, which has been established throughout history, and harmonize it with the function of the new governmental units. The process of drafting the decentralizing reform and its approval should be accomplished only through full political consensus in the Parliament. Each local community has the opportunity to express their stance for or against changing the national boundaries, as set down in the Constitution of the Republic of Albania. The Prime Minister, Edi Rama, is celebrating his 50th birthday today. He has received many congratulations on the social networks, Facebook and Twitter. In a publication on the social networks, he responded to all the birthday wishes. "Thank you for the countless congratulations, even though they constantly remind me that I am not young anymore." He also published a picture with the caption, I'm not 50 years old, I am 18 with 32 years of experience." It is not known where and how Prime Minister Rama will celebrate his birthday outside of the work environment. However, in a statement on the 24th of June, he said that he was not looking forward to the birthday with any great enthusiasm. "The 50th birthday is a dramatic change that I anticipate without any enthusiasm," he said. The Speaker of the Albanian Parliament, Ilir Meta, has been on an official visit to the country of Israel. During his visit to Israel, the Speaker of the Albanian Assembly, Ilir Meta, held a meeting with the Foreign Minister of Israel, Avigdor Lieberman. During this meeting, Meta stressed the need to strengthen the economic cooperation between the two countries. The President of the Assembly, Ilir Meta, praised the intensification of political exchanges and the strengthening of parliamentary relations between Albania and Israel. He stressed that the two countries should focus on strengthening the economic cooperation, particularly in the fields of energy, natural resources, agriculture, agro-processing, tourism, and technology. In this context, Meta expressed appreciation for the personal role of Lieberman in the opening of the Embassy of Israel in Albania. Lieberman has worked hard to increase the Israeli investments in Albania. He also expressed thanks for the dedication of the Israeli ambassador to Tirana, David Cohen. The Foreign Minister of Israel, Avigdor Lieberman, praised the approval of the candidate status for Albania's EU membership, noting that the strengthening of the European perspective of Albania further consolidates the stability and the progress of the Balkans and the prospects for investments from Israel in the region. Lieberman also expressed appreciation for the strengthening of the bilateral relations and his belief that the visit of the President of the Assembly to Israel will be an important motivator for the intensification of economic and parliamentary cooperation between the two countries, according to the press release. The President of the Assembly, Ilir Meta, and Minister Lieberman also discussed the international developments, focusing on the region of southeastern Europe and the Middle East. Lieberman stressed that Albania is a perfect example for many countries in the world, as far as good neighborhood policy and a constructive approach in the region. After discussing the latest developments in the Middle East, Meta expressed his most sincere condolences to the authorities and to the people of Israel for the killing of 3 Israeli youth near Hebron, stressing that those responsible for this grave act must face justice. In conclusion, Meta and Lieberman shared their conviction that the strengthening of cooperation between Albania and Israel under international platforms will contribute to the strengthening of peace, stability, and prosperity in both regions. There have been no further arrests in the case of last week's murder when Artan Santo was gunned down in the middle of Tirana. Meetings between the prosecutors, the police, and the intelligence service have been frequent in recent days about the murder of the banker Artan Santo. Another meeting was held today at the prosecution of Tirana. I was run by the head of the prosecution of the capital, Petrit Fusha, with the participation of the Tirana police and the SIS agents. According to the investigation group, about 40 people have been questioned up to this point, and the investigators' work is focused on collecting material evidence, which will hopefully lead the investigation group to the killers. Sources explain that the investigation team has questioned the relatives of the bankers, his family members, his partners, renowned businessmen, and political representatives, as well as others who may have information about the event. The same sources have said that they will thoroughly investigate all those who own a motorcycle similar to the one used in the murder of the banker. Some people who own similar motorcycles were questioned, but no connection was found with the assassination that occurred on the 26th of June in the Block area. The investigation of the telephone location history of the cousins Saimir and Claudian Josi is of great interest. They are the only two people who have been arrested so far in this serious event. It is learned that they will be made available to the prosecution to determine whether they were in Tirana or not on that day. Even though the two cousins live in Ishem of Durrës, the police have focused their search on Fush Kuche of Lotz, where the motorcycle is thought to have been last. There have been even more drugs found in Lazarat as the police operation continues. The search of the houses in Lazarat turned up large quantities of marijuana that the growers have hidden. The police have discovered a water cistern filled with narcotics. 2 tons and 430 kilograms of marijuana were hidden inside the water cistern. It is learned that they plan to burn the drugs that they have found. They also found an underground compartment in a basement with a hidden entrance. Inside, they found a quantity of 383 kilograms of marijuana, which was placed in 9 plastic barrels. The cellar was built to conceal and dry the drugs. The owner of the house is wanted by the police on charges of manufacturing and selling narcotics. 2 gambling machines were also found in his apartment, for which another charge has been issued. Artan Lame spoke today about the issues that the citizens bearing property documents are facing. The head of the Agency of Legalization, Urbanization, and Integration of Informal Areas, Artan Lame, said today that there are 45,000 files that have been carried over from past years, for which no legalization permit can be issued, because in their documentation they only have the bills that they have paid, and no measurements of the size of their properties. In a press conference, the head of the agency, Artan Lame, emphasized that the files are incomplete since they only have the bills that the citizens have paid and no other documents. This causes the reaction of the citizens. The citizens have paid money, but they have received no service, he said. Lame urged any citizens that have such files to appear at the offices of the agency and that the measurements will be remade without any further expense to them. These files will start from the beginning, he said. The total lack of accountability of the previous government, especially in 2013, when they told the citizens to pay the bills in order to receive the documentation, has put us in this situation. We call on the citizens to come and accept this situation. New measurements will be made because there are none in the documents, Lame underlined. The agency head continued. The new law on legalization came into force, but it entered into force in silent mode, as the President of the Republic did not issue a decree concerning it. It was driven by the dilemma of whether to enact this bill, which was awaited by hundreds of thousands of citizens for the effects that it would provide, or to obey the command of Mr. Berisha to sabotage the process of legalization. These days, Our counters in all cities of the country and all regions of the country are facing an unimaginable influx of citizens who seek to follow the process of their files or to apply for the legalization of their houses. I urge the citizens to wait for our teams, who will knock door to door in the informal homes and areas, said Lame. A conference was held today to discuss the steps that are being taken for the employment of disabled people. At the conference, entitled Strengthening Employment Policies for People with Disabilities, in the focus of national policy and in accordance with European standards and best practices, the Deputy Minister of Social Welfare and Youth, Ms. Korspiri, said that this is the right time to implement the recommendations of the EU, as well as put the studies into practice. It is an extraordinary challenge, said Korspiri, as the representation and the fight against discrimination is not easy. The government has a special program that provides specific measures for employers and employees. According to the decision of the Council of Ministers to promote employment, for any employment of people with disabilities, a company will be paid from the state budget for 6 months, creating conditions for the accommodation of disabled people at work, she said. Citing the work and the efforts of the government, the Deputy Minister emphasized that this work is in collaboration with civil society because the state does not have the adequate capacity for the employment and the dignified representation of persons with disabilities. The President of the Association of the Blind, Sinan Tafai, considered the process of employment of people with disabilities to be one of the greatest challenges, and according to him, the solution is the confidence of hiring policies and real implementation. The Commissioner for Protection from Discrimination, Irma Baraku, said that Albania has a big problem because complaints for the Ombudsman are coming in even though people with disabilities are being seen through the eyes of compassion. Baraku mentioned a particular case in which an employee who was impaired just stayed at home but still collected the salary. This situation, according to her, is related to the mentality of the society. She mentioned many complaints that come as the result of the lack of proper work conditions to enable the employment of people with disabilities. The head of the Council of Europe to Albania, Mark Liedecker, said that the convention and the laws are clear, but they are not being implemented. According to him, people with disabilities can appeal to the European Court if they do not find justice here. The summer tourist season is well underway for the Albanian town of Gjirokastër. The Gjirokastër summer tourist season is characterized by the occupation of public parking spaces, the lack of public toilets, neglect of the sidewalks and streets, and the degradation of many characteristic houses, which are the first attractions to the tourists. These problems have been present this season as well. Despite this, the souvenir shops and artisans in the area of the museum try to bring something new every year. The growth of tourism requires a growth of businesses to respond to that tourism. We test our work, the way the sales are made, and the responsibility that we have in order to convey our culture, said one of the merchants in the museum. About 25,000 tourists visit Gjirokastër every year. It has served as a transit destination for those visiting the south of the country. This has been the Ora News English edition. Thank you for watching. Please join us again tomorrow at 6 p.m. Thank you and good night.